He calls me. He says, Chuck, I've done 2 movies in Hong Kong. I want to do a movie now with a fight scene that everyone will remember.
For decades, people wondered what killed Bruce Lee. Now, at 85, Chuck Norris has broken his silence. He doesn't believe the official story. He thinks something much darker happened that night in Hong Kong. Chuck was there during Bruce's final days. And what he discovered about that fatal mix of medicines will shock you. Bruce wasn't just unlucky. Someone gave him something that reacted with what he was already taking. The truth about July 20th, 1973 is finally coming out, and the confession will surprise you. Chuck Norris was born on March 10, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma, a tiny town of about 1,000 people. His family was very poor, living through one of the hardest times in America's history. His birth name, Carlos Ray Norris, came from his father's minister, Carlos Berry. His parents hoped this name would bring blessings. Chuck's background was a mix of Cherokee from his grandmother and Irish from his grandfather. The Norris family struggled to survive on less than $500 a year. There was no hospital in town, so Chuck was born at home with just a midwife. These harsh beginnings taught him what it meant to fight against the odds. Growing up wasn't easy for Chuck. He was picked on because of his mixed heritage. Kids made fun of him, called him names, and tried to humiliate him. His Cherokee and Irish background made him stand out in a way that invited cruelty. He was quiet, shy, and developed a stutter, which made things worse. Bullies would steal his lunch money, push him around, and embarrass him in front of others. As a freshman, he weighed only 95 pounds, which made him an easy target. Sometimes, he hid in the bathroom during lunch just to avoid trouble. These painful experiences made him feel worthless, and even drove him to think about ending his life. But deep down, he promised himself that one day he would become strong and never feel powerless again. Chuck's father, Ray Norris, was an alcoholic truck driver. His drinking tore the family apart. Ray would leave for weeks, and when he came back, he was often drunk and distant. The family had to move often, staying with relatives to survive. Ray wasted their money on alcohol, leaving Chuck's mother, Wilma, to struggle to feed the kids. He never showed up for school events or birthdays. One of the worst moments came when Chuck was 12. His father promised to take him fishing. Chuck waited by the truck for hours, but Ray never came. He had passed out in a bar. These disappointments left deep scars. Chuck couldn't trust his father, and he grew up feeling unwanted. But, in a strange way, Ray's absence also protected him from violence, as Ray's few interactions with the family were often filled with anger. When Chuck was 16, his parents divorced. It was 1956. Wilma finally had enough of Ray's drinking. The family had to start over. They first moved to Prairie Village, Kansas. They lived in a tiny apartment above a grocery store. Chuck slept on a fold-out couch. When they couldn't afford that, they moved to Torrance, California, hoping for a better life. Chuck worked at a gas station for $0.75 an hour to help with bills. He became the man of the house, caring for his younger brothers, Wieland and Aaron. They moved so often that Chuck attended 4 different high schools. He never had the chance to settle down or make lasting friends. All of this made him even more determined to build a better life. One of the most haunting moments in Chuck's life came from his brother Wieland. Before heading to Vietnam in 1968, Wieland told Chuck he wouldn't live to see 27. Chuck tried to calm him, but Wieland was sure. On June 3, 1970, just before his 27th birthday, Wieland was killed in action. The news reached Chuck on his 30th birthday. The loss broke him. He felt guilty for surviving and carried the weight of that tragedy for years. It also deepened his respect for the spiritual beliefs of his Cherokee roots. In 1958, Chuck joined the U.S. Air Force at 18. He started at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. At first, there was nothing special about him. He was shy and unsure of himself. He became an air policeman, guarding bases and enforcing rules. This role taught him about discipline. His real transformation began in Korea, where he was stationed at Osan Air Base. Bored and lonely, he joined a martial arts class. His teacher was Mr. Jae Chul Shin. Chuck trained in Tang Soo Do. In just 18 months, he earned his black belt, something that usually took years. He trained 6 to 8 hours a day, even in freezing winters. Martial arts gave him strength and confidence he never thought possible. When Chuck returned to the U.S. in 1960, he was stationed at March Air Force Base in California. There, he guarded nuclear weapons and taught martial arts on the side. He charged only $10 a month for lessons. He even won a major karate championship in 1964 while still in uniform. He left the Air Force in 1962 as an airman first class. That same year, he tried to become a police officer, but the waiting list was too long. So, he opened a tiny martial arts studio with just $800 in savings. He had no business experience and was still painfully shy. But soon, stars like Steve McQueen and James Coburn came to learn from him. His life began to change. There was one secret Chuck kept for years. While stationed in California, he had an affair with a woman named Johanna. He was married at the time to his high school sweetheart, Diane. The affair led to the birth of a daughter, Dinah, in 1963. Chuck kept this hidden for over 26 years. The guilt weighed on him deeply. He sent money in secret to support Dinah while trying to build his career and support his official family. This hidden part of his life showed that even heroes have their struggles. Chuck Norris's path to martial arts glory didn't begin with victory. It began with defeat. When he first stepped into the world of tournament karate, he was humbled in ways that could have crushed most men. He lost badly to Joe Louis, Alan Steen, and Tony Tulliners. It wasn't just that he lost. These were crushing defeats that exposed every weakness in his fighting style. Tony Tulliners, in particular, beat him 3 times at the International Karate Championships. And at the 1966 California State Karate Championships, Tulliners humiliated him again by defeating him in the finals. This was shocking because Norris had already earned his black belt in Tang Soo Do while serving in the U.S. Air Force in South Korea. But his traditional training wasn't enough against American fighters who had mastered different techniques. Instead of quitting, Norris studied. He watched films of his losses. He broke down every mistake. He analyzed his opponent's moves. Bit by bit, he rebuilt his style. This determination turned his early failures into the key to his future success. In 1967, Norris shocked the martial arts world at Madison Square Garden during the All-American Karate Championship. This wasn't just another tournament. It was hosted by Grandmaster S. Henry Cho and drew hundreds of fighters and thousands of fans. Norris wasn't seen as the favorite. Joe Louis was the unbeatable force. But in the final match, Norris stunned everyone. He used what he had learned. His timing was perfect. His counters stopped Louis's attacks before they could land. In the final moments, Norris blocked a lunge, pivoted inside, and hit Louis with a punch followed by a clean hook kick. When his name was announced as the winner, it wasn't just a victory. It was proof that skill, strategy, and timing could defeat raw power. Norris didn't stop there. He went on to build a record of 65 wins and only 5 losses. He defeated some of the greatest fighters of his era, including Joe Louis, Skipper Mullins, Arnold Urquidez, Ronald L. Marchini, Victor Moore, Louis Delgado, and Steve Sanders. Only 5 fighters ever beat him, and they included legends like Alan Steen, Joe Louis, and Louis Delgado. His success came during the golden age of American karate, when the competition was fierce and packed with future legends. Norris's style kept evolving. He blended Tang Soo Do with American point fighting techniques. This made him nearly impossible to beat. By 1966, he was winning major titles everywhere, from the National Karate Championships to the World Middleweight Karate Championship. One of his greatest moments came on November 24, 1968. That's when he fought Luis Delgado for the World Professional Middleweight Karate Championship. Delgado had beaten Norris earlier that year, handing him what would be his 10th and final loss. The rematch was personal. Norris won and became the champion. He held the title for 6 years, defending it successfully until he retired in 1974 as the undefeated professional full-contact middleweight champion. In 1969, he earned karate's Triple Crown for the most tournament wins that year and was named Fighter of the Year by Black Belt magazine. As his fighting career soared, Norris built a martial arts empire. His schools attracted Hollywood's biggest names. Steve McQueen trained with him and even encouraged him to try acting. Bob Barker learned self-defense from him. Priscilla Presley turned to Norris for protection training. The Osmonds, including Donnie and Marie, also became his students. His dojos became the place where stars trained and mingled, and that led to opportunities that changed his life. One of the most important came when Bruce Lee saw him at Madison Square Garden in 1968. Lee had just given a kung fu demonstration. Impressed by Norris, the new karate champion, Lee invited him on stage to show his skills. This meeting sparked a friendship that would become legendary. They trained together intensely for years, pushing each other beyond their limits. Norris taught Lee about the power of high kicks. Lee, who had once believed kicks should stay low, changed his mind after training with Norris. Within 6 months, Lee's high kicks had improved dramatically. Their bond led to one of the most iconic movie fights of all time. In 1972, they filmed their showdown at Rome's Colosseum for The Way of the Dragon. They had to bribe officials and sneak cameras inside because filming there was illegal. Lee spent 45 hours choreographing the scene, and it took up a large part of the script. Norris agreed to lose the fight in the film, knowing it would create an unforgettable moment. And it did. That scene helped launch Norris's movie career. His first acting role came in 1968's The Wrecking Crew, thanks to Bruce Lee. Norris played a bodyguard and had one line. He was so nervous that he whispered it. He even filmed with a black eye from a karate match the day before. But this small role opened doors. His real breakthrough came with Good Guys Wear Black in 1978. No studio wanted the film, so Norris and his team rented theaters and showed it themselves. It cost just $1 million to make, but earned over $18 million. That success made Norris a true action hero, and the first American martial arts star to break out in Hollywood. Chuck Norris's rise to superstardom in the 1980s came from one bold decision. In 1984, he signed a multiple film deal with Cannon Films. This would change his career forever. His first film in the deal was Missing in Action. Norris dedicated it to his younger brother Wieland. Wieland was a private in the 101st Airborne Division. He was killed in Vietnam in June 1970 while defending Firebase Ripcord. This made the film deeply personal for Norris. Audiences loved it. They wanted heroes who stood for something. The film's success was huge. It led to a sequel and a 7-year exclusive deal worth over $20 million. Norris became one of the highest-paid action stars of the decade. By the mid-1980s, Cannon Films depended on him. His movies like Invasion USA, The Delta Force, and Firewalker kept the studio alive. His films made money everywhere, at home and overseas. One of the most shocking moments in his career came during Missing in Action 2. The film was shot in the Philippines. Norris had to do a torture scene. His character was tied upside down with a bag over his head. Inside the bag was supposed to be a fake rat. But the prop didn't arrive. Norris, in his own words, was in his young and foolish stage. He told the team to use a real rat. They killed the rat, put it in a sack, and hung Norris upside down. Fake blood dripped into his mouth. He held the dead rat between his teeth. He later said, "All I can taste is mountain rat, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna get the bubonic plague." When they took the bag off, part of the rat's head was chewed off. This extreme effort showed Norris's drive for authenticity no matter the cost. Norris's box office success built up over time. In 1979, A Force of One earned $20 million. The Octagon followed in 1980 with nearly $19 million. Silent Rage in 1982 made over $10 million on a $4.5 million budget. Then came Lone Wolf McQuade in 1983. It made $12 million and became a fan favorite. It mixed action with a Western feel. This inspired Walker, Texas Ranger, later on. Each film made Norris more popular. Studios trusted him. Fans loved him. He became one of the most bankable stars of the decade. In 1985, Code of Silence became his biggest hit yet. It opened at #1 and earned over $20 million in the US. Critics praised it. One review said he had quiet competence, and that it could be his breakout film. The movie showed Norris could go beyond B-movie action. People compared it to good Charles Bronson or Clint Eastwood films, but his later films didn't match that level of quality. Norris's image as an anti-communist hero became powerful during the Cold War. His films became symbols of American strength. Missing in Action and the Delta Force weren't just entertainment. They inspired real people. In Romania, pirated copies spread through black markets. People watched Norris fight oppression. A 2015 documentary, Chuck Norris vs. Communism, showed how his films helped Romanians dream of freedom. One person said, "When you see Chuck Norris resist authority without fear, it makes you think you can do the same." Then came Walker, Texas Ranger. It wasn't just another show. It became a phenomenon. It started on April 21, 1993. The pilot episodes drew 19.2 million viewers. CBS wasn't sure it would work, but it did. The show ran for 203 episodes across 8 seasons until May 19, 2001. At its peak, it had nearly 15 million viewers. It aired in over 100 countries. Even in its final season, it pulled in 10.2 million viewers after being moved to an earlier time slot. Norris wasn't just the star. He was also executive producer. He shaped the show's direction. His company, Top Kick Productions, ran it from season 2. He even convinced CBS to air a faith-based episode. They didn't want to, but Norris bet it would be their top-rated episode. It was. The episode about a girl shot in gang violence became the season's highest-rated show. Norris made sure the series stayed moral. No drugs. Characters did community service. This reflected his personal beliefs. Norris also had a unique contract. He got 23% of all revenue. This included reruns, DVDs, syndication, and streaming. By 2018, the show had made over $692 million just from syndication. Norris sued CBS and Sony. He said they were hiding profits. He wanted nearly $30 million in damages. The case lasted over 5 years. It finally settled in 2023. The details stayed secret. But the fight showed how valuable the show remained. In 2001, Norris made a surprising choice. He ended the show himself. It still had strong ratings, but he wanted to quit as a winner. He said being star and producer left no time for a life. He compared it to boxing. He didn't want to be remembered as the one who stayed too long. The final episode aired as a 2-hour movie. Norris said it was almost too good for television. And just like that, he ended Walker, Texas Ranger, on his own terms. Chuck Norris married Diane Holchek in December 1958. They were just teenagers back then. Their marriage lasted 30 years, but it ended in heartbreak. In 1988, while Chuck was filming Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection, their relationship fell apart. The divorce became final in 1989. It was a painful time. On screen, he was playing tough, loyal heroes. But off-screen, his own family life was falling apart because of his affairs. Diane had been by his side through everything, from his Air Force days to his rise in martial arts. But she couldn't take the cheating anymore. They had two sons, Mike, born in 1962, and Eric, born in 1964. Details about custody stayed private. But one thing was clear. This divorce marked a major turning point in Chuck's life. The personal troubles didn't stop him from facing battles in the courtroom. On January 30, 2018, Chuck filed a massive lawsuit. He went after CBS and Sony for over $30 million. His company, Top Kick Productions, claimed they broke a deal over Walker, Texas Ranger. His contract said he should get 23% of all profits from anything involving the show. By 2019, the series had brought in more than $692 million. That meant Chuck's share could have been worth hundreds of millions. But he said CBS kept money from him. The lawsuit revealed they allegedly hadn't paid him streaming profits since 2004. The legal fight went on for years. In September 2018, a judge sent the case to arbitration because the claims were so closely tied between CBS and Sony. The accusations were shocking. Chuck's team said CBS and Sony found clever ways to hide profits. They said the companies moved Walker from syndication and DVDs, which would have meant paying Chuck, to streaming services they owned. That way, they kept control of the money without sharing. The companies reportedly even blocked Chuck from seeing the financial records. It seemed like a plan to keep him in the dark about just how much Walker was really making. One claim stood out. CBS allegedly rejected good licensing offers just to keep the money in-house. One example pointed to a deal with Katz Broadcasting that could have made real profits. Instead, CBS gave rights to its own Get TV network. That meant CBS kept all the profits while leaving Chuck out. This move showed how giant media companies could use their own networks and companies to avoid paying talent. After more than 5 years, the battle finally ended. On July 24, 2023, a judge dismissed the case. CBS had reached a secret settlement with Chuck. Nobody knows the exact amount, but insiders believe CBS paid a lot to make the case go away. Sony had already been dropped from the case in 2022. During these years, CBS went through major changes, becoming Paramount Global. Meanwhile, a Walker reboot starring Jared Padalecki launched. Chuck still co-owned the original, so his approval mattered. The settlement likely closed the door on any future lawsuits about this fight. But that wasn't Chuck's first courtroom clash. In 1996, he filed a lawsuit over racial discrimination linked to karate studios using his name. It came after a 1992 case where those studios had to pay damages to black families for discrimination. Chuck claimed he had no idea the studios treated people unfairly. He said it caused him mental pain to learn about it. His lawsuit asked for $1.5 million and accused the studio owners of breaking their licensing deal in other ways, too. They hadn't opened the number of studios they had promised. That case ended quietly in 1997 with a private settlement. Chuck said he fought the case not for ego, but for ethics. It all started in 2013, when Gina Norris went through 3 MRI scans over 8 to 10 days. She was trying to find answers for symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. For the scans, doctors used gadolinium-based contrast agents called Prohance and Multihance made by Bracco Diagnostics. But what came next was something no one could have imagined. Soon after the last scan, Gina felt a terrible burning inside her body. She said it was like acid had spread through her veins. At first, the pain stayed in certain areas, but then it kept spreading. It got so bad that Chuck had to rush her to emergency rooms in Texas again and again, sometimes in the middle of the night. Over the next 5 months, things only got worse. Gina became too weak to even swallow. Doctors had to feed her baby formula through her esophagus. The burning never stopped. She spent 5 or 6 nights in emergency rooms. Her body shook. She felt numbness, tingling, and extreme tiredness. Her mind became foggy. Her kidneys were damaged. She struggled to breathe. Chuck and Gina believed all this was because of gadolinium staying in her body. They called it gadolinium deposition disease, a condition many experts still argue about. By November 2017, the couple decided to fight back. They filed a lawsuit asking for more than $10 million in damages. They sued big names like McKesson Corporation, Bracco SPA, and Assist Medical Systems, Inc. Their claim was that these companies knew gadolinium could stay in the body and cause harm, but never gave proper warnings. Their case became a symbol for other patients who said they too had suffered from the metal left behind by these scans. Chuck spoke out often, warning people about the risks of gadolinium. The media covered the story widely, drawn by Chuck's fame and his determination to protect his wife. What touched people most was how Chuck dropped everything to care for Gina. He walked away from his film career saying, "I gave up my film career to focus on Gina. I think this issue is that important." He stayed beside her through it all. He slept on a couch next to her hospital bed. He even read 17 books to her as she lay sick. The couple spent around $2 million on alternative treatments, hoping to find something that would help. Gina later shared how Chuck never left her side during those long, painful months. At age 80, Chuck had given up his old life to become her full-time caregiver. He said in 2017, "My whole life has been focused on making it the best it can be. That's why I ended my career." But after years of legal battles, everything took an unexpected turn. On January 15, 2020, Chuck and Gina dropped their lawsuit. They didn't get any settlement. Both sides agreed to pay their own legal costs. They could never file the case again. The company they sued, Bracco, called it a victory and said they stood by the safety of their products. After all their public promises to fight, many were surprised by the sudden end to the case. It was seen as a big win for the companies that make gadolinium agents. Even while dealing with all this, Chuck turned his internet fame into a business success. Companies knew people loved the jokes about him, so they hired him for ads. He appeared in a World of Warcraft commercial. Fiat made him the face of their ad campaign in Europe. He launched his own supplements under the name Roundhouse Provisions at age 83. Toyota made a funny ad where a Tacoma got Chuck's powers. A Norwegian company even ran a climate change ad saying they'd take over from Chuck in saving the world. Chuck's meme fame helped him reach both young fans and older ones who knew him from his movies. Chuck also found success as a writer. His 2006 autobiography, Against All Odds, My Story, became a New York Times bestseller. He shared his struggles with poverty, his father's drinking, and his own early weaknesses. His 2008 book, Black Belt Patriotism, also hit the bestseller list, calling for America to return to Christian values and stronger borders. He wrote fiction, like the Justice Riders series, and books on philosophy like The Secret Power Within and The Secret of Inner Strength. In 2009, he even published the official Chuck Norris fact book, inspired by the internet jokes about him. On top of all this, Chuck became a strong voice in politics. He backed Mike Huckabee in 2008, helping him win the Iowa caucuses with 34% of the vote. He wrote for conservative websites, speaking out on topics like creationism in schools and his opposition to gay marriage. In 2012, he and Gina made a YouTube video urging Christians to vote, saying America was at a tipping point. He even joked about leading Texas if it ever seceded. His influence went beyond endorsements. He gave money to Republican candidates and kept writing about his views in columns read by thousands. Chuck Norris has always spoken with deep respect about Bruce Lee. Even when people tried to create drama between them, Norris stayed focused on the truth. In 2018, he shared his personal thoughts on Bruce's mysterious death. Norris believed it wasn't just bad luck or a simple health issue. He said it came down to a dangerous mix of medicines. When Bruce was in Hong Kong working on a new film, he had a terrible headache. Actress Betty Ting Pei, who was with him at the time, gave him some medicine to help. But Norris believed that this medicine reacted badly with what Bruce had already been taking for his back injury. Bruce had struggled with back pain since 1968, and Norris thought this drug mix caused Bruce's brain to swell. In his words, the medication he had taken for his back, they reacted to each other and made his brain swell up and created an aneurysm or ruptured blood cells in his brain. This idea fits with the official cause of death, cerebral edema, but adds another possible reason behind it. Still, some scientists have a different idea. In 2022, experts wrote in the Clinical Kidney Journal that Bruce may have died from drinking too much water. They called it hyponatremia, or water intoxication. They said his kidneys couldn't get rid of the extra water fast enough. The theory points to his high fluid intake and his use of cannabis, which can make people feel thirstier. The autopsy showed his brain weighed 1,575 grams, much more than the normal 1,400 grams. The official report said he died from a reaction to Equagesic, a painkiller that has aspirin and meprobamate. But experts still argue over what really happened that day. At 85, Norris still works hard to clear up the false stories people tell about Bruce. He often talks about how people wrongly thought they were rivals. The truth, Norris says, is that they respected each other deeply. Bruce could be serious on screen, but Norris said he also had a fun, playful side in private. And what about the endless question, who would have won in a real fight? Norris usually avoids giving a direct answer because, to him, it misses the point. He wanted people to see the friendship they shared, not imagine them as enemies. Still, in a private talk with their co-star John Ben, Norris reportedly said Bruce would have won, saying, "Bruce, of course, nobody could beat him." But Norris has never said that in public interviews.